In topic 1, we will be discussing the foundations of environmental systems and societies. This will provide the background and the introductory material that we need and we will refer to throughout the year. The first part of topic 1, we will be concentrating on environmental value systems. We're going to divide this into 2 parts. The first, we'll be looking at historical events, including people, acts and laws that have been passed, major changes in our society like agricultural revolution or industrial revolution, and looking at how those events affect our environmental value systems and how that has shaped the environmental movement of today. The second part, we will be looking at what the environmental value systems are, what the implications of having a certain environmental value system is, and we will try to determine what your individual environmental value systems are and if they change throughout the year. Okay, so in this first part, we're going to be looking at significant historical influences, influences from literature, media, major disasters, international agreements, and technological developments. Literature like Rachel Carson's Silent Spring. We'll look at the media and the influence that governmental organizations and non-governmental organizations can have on the media. We'll look at environmental disasters, so looking at what happened in Japan to the nuclear power plant a few years ago as a result of an earthquake. We will look at environmental disasters that are not caused by nature but caused by man. For example, the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, the release of gases in Bhopal, India, the release of mercury in Minamata, Japan. We'll look at international agreements like Kyoto Protocol, the Montreal Protocol, and then we'll look at some of our technological developments, especially in the last century. Just to highlight one of the pollutants that we're going to talk about is mercury. Mercury is a heavy metal. It's poisonous to animals. It can build up in our tissues and affect our nervous system. It can cause vision problems, hearing and speech problems, lack of coordination, and then it can cause serious problems like insanity. You see I have the picture here of the Mad Hatter. Well, hat makers in the 20th century used mercury in the hat making process. There were a lot of hat makers that were considered to be insane, and they had no idea why. Now we know that it was the mercury that was used in the hat making process. That is what the character in Alice in Wonderland, the Mad Hatter's character, was based on. One of the events that we're going to look at in class and the timelines that we create in a short video that we're going to watch is what happened in Minamata, Japan. It was the Chiso Corporation, one of the byproducts that they released was mercury, and we'll look at the effects that it had on the folks that were living in the surrounding area. Another major event that shaped our modern environmental movement is Rachel Carson and her book Silent Spring. She was a nature author and also originally was a marine biologist with the Fish and Wildlife Service. And in 1962, she wrote a book called Silent Spring that exposed the hazards of DDT, which was a pesticide used during that time period. Now, DDT was developed in the late 1930s, and it's the most powerful pesticide we've ever known. It was originally developed to kill mosquitoes to prevent the spread of malaria. It was very successful in that. The problem was that it killed many varieties of insects at once. So not just bad insects that were causing problems, but insects that are beneficial to us, like pollinators as well. And what this book did was expose our vulnerability when we look at nature's systems and how we as humans input something into that system, the adverse effects that can result. So Silent Spring outlined how DDT enters our food chains. It accumulates, just like mercury accumulates, in our fatty tissues. So it passes up the food chain, and it has even been found in humans, and it's been known to cause cancer and genetic damage that affects our offspring. So the book created a public awareness that nature was vulnerable to human interventions. Now, remember, this is the 1960s. So not that long ago did we start becoming aware of our impact. And remember, the Industrial Revolution was in the late 1800s. So we've had a pretty large impact for a very long time before this was brought to our attention. So for the first time, we realized that we need to regulate industry to protect the environment. And this idea became widely accepted, and this is when early environmentalism was born. All right, we'll look at other historical events in class, those that were included in your timelines, as well as a few others.